Have you ever seen an ice cream competition like this? First up is SpongeBob, covered head to toe in peanut butter, creating what can only be described as a nearly perfect ice cream. Feeling proud, he mocks Patrick, which completely sets him off. Patrick dons his ice cream cone pants, and with one swift move, he dives into SpongeBob's creation. The judges give him a perfect score. At that moment, their friendship is shattered beyond repair. Today is the annual Bikini Bottom chef competition, and the contestant from the Chum Bucket is none other than Patrick. Encouraged by Mr. Krabs and Plankton, SpongeBob and Patrick step onto the final stage together. SpongeBob bites through a steel chain and creates an armor for his teeth. Not to be outdone, Patrick stuffs lemons into his eyes. The competition begins, and SpongeBob flexes his muscles, while Patrick shows off his fancy suit. They challenge each other, with Patrick daringly licking SpongeBob's foot, and SpongeBob retaliating with equal force.
No! My name's not Red!
But in the heat of the moment, both of their pants rip. When they catch sight of each other's underwear, their anger fades instantly, and they embrace, crying. Despite Mr. Krabs and Plankton constantly stirring the pot, they remain steadfast and walk forward together.
You know, these were white when I bought them.
Do you know why Mr. Krabs loves money so much? It's because he grew up in a poor family, and his clothes were made out of cardboard. Seeing other kids driving fancy cars made him realize just how important money was. One day, Mr. Krabs shared his childhood story with SpongeBob. Surprisingly, he and Plankton were childhood friends, carefree and happy as kids. When they started elementary school, Plankton got picked on a lot because he was small. Mr. Krabs stood up for his friend, but instead of getting an apology, they were humiliated even more. Being poor meant their clothes were hand-me-downs from neighbors, and when those ran out, Mr. Krabs had to make do with cardboard outfits. One day, Mr. Krabs spotted something shiny on the ground, money. He didn't know what it was for, but Plankton explained that money could be used to buy things. So, Mr. Krabs bought a balloon and tied it to Plankton. Back then, Bikini Bottom had only one burger joint. Even though the burgers didn't taste great, kids loved going there. The owner was usually friendly, but the moment he saw Mr. Krabs and Plankton's tattered clothes, he turned cold and tried to kick them out. Later, that same owner suddenly struck it rich and started driving a fancy car, enjoying the high life, which made Mr. Krabs value money even more. An idea sparked in his mind. If he made better burgers, he could make a fortune. The two of them started their own business, but with no money to rent a shop or buy kitchen equipment, they scavenged an old building from the junkyard and officially began developing the Krabby Patty. After a lot of hard work, the first batch of Krabby Patties was ready. They renovated the building into a shop, customers lined up immediately, and Mr. Krabs proudly hung his very first dollar on the wall. But Plankton wanted to open his own burger place. He ignored Mr. Krabs' advice and even stole Mr. Krabs' family secret recipe. Mr. Krabs told SpongeBob that was his story with Plankton. Then Plankton suddenly appeared and told a different version. When they earned their first big paycheck, Mr. Krabs became obsessed with money. He wanted to make fast cash and ignored Plankton's suggestions for improvements. They argued over the secret formula, and in the end, Mr. Krabs kicked Plankton out of the burger shop. But is that really the whole truth?
Karen!
SpongeBob was busy making Krabby Patties when a health inspector barged into the restaurant. Using a scanner, the inspector checked everyone and came to a shocking conclusion. One person was infected with a highly contagious virus. The inspector immediately locked down the entire restaurant, sending everyone into a panic. Squidward, nervously scrubbing himself with a brush, tried to stay clean. Mr. Krabs hid in his office, while Plankton managed to sneak out of a soda bottle using his small size, only to be quickly eliminated by the quarantine robot. To figure out who was infected, Mr. Krabs began checking everyone one by one. Squidward, anxious, accidentally knocked over the pepper shaker, sending a cloud of pepper into SpongeBob's nose, causing him to sneeze. Panic spread throughout the restaurant. To prevent the virus from spreading, SpongeBob volunteered to lock himself in the freezer. From inside the freezer, loud, painful noises were heard. But in reality, SpongeBob was happily skiing and eating an endless supply of ice cream. Seeing this, Patrick decided he wanted some ice cream too. He pretended to be infected and eventually got locked in the freezer with SpongeBob, where they began an epic ice cream battle. By now, only 4 people were left in the restaurant. Squidward, feeling a slight itch on his skin, was mistakenly thought to be infected with the flu and was sent to the freezer. The tension continued to rise as the 3 remaining survivors feared they might be infected. Mrs. Puff yawned, and Mr. Krabs immediately locked her in the freezer. Pearl was suspected of having the flu after paying back some money and was also sent to the freezer despite her protests. Inside the freezer, the group finally realized that no one was actually infected. The only one who had the virus was Mr. Krabs. They decided to capture the real infected person and charge out of the freezer. Mr. Krabs, terrified, hid under a table only to fall into the sewer. Squidward tried to grab him but fell in as well, both of them covered in filth. Mr. Krabs, unwilling to be caught, struggled to escape, and chaos ensued. More people were covered in dirt as the fight escalated. After a fierce struggle, Mrs. Puff finally tossed Mr. Krabs into the trash bin. The situation quickly spiraled out of control and the brawl lasted all day. Just then, the health inspector opened the door and saw the chaos, guilt written all over his face. It turned out that he had made a mistake with the test kit the day before. There was never a virus at all, but by then, it was too late. Squidward's tentacles were covered in boils. SpongeBob had become even more hideous. Mrs. Puff was buried under a pile of trash. Patrick caught bronchitis, and Pearl's nose was leaking pus. And Mr. Krabs was the worst. His body was beginning to rot. Terrified, the health inspector ran out of the restaurant, deciding to quarantine the entire Krusty Krab. Did you know Bikini Bottom once had 538 residents? Now it's down to 537, because SpongeBob has been kicked out of town. town. That morning, SpongeBob just wanted to hug Gary, but he squeezed too tight and cracked his shell. After a quick apology, he rushed out the door only to bump straight into Patrick, smashing the birthday cake Patrick had baked for his mom. Patrick, furious, snapped and said the cruelest thing. Feeling crushed, SpongeBob went to the Krusty Krab, hoping work might cheer him up. Instead, he knocked things over in the kitchen, slipped, and shoved Mr. Krabs straight into the fryer. Crispy, golden brown, and steaming mad. Right then and there, Mr. Krabs fired him and threw him out of the restaurant. Trying to make things right, SpongeBob turned to Squidward, but Squidward only grumbled that SpongeBob had ruined his nap. So he went to Sandy's place looking for comfort. Sandy had just finished building a dancing robot. Wanting to surprise her, SpongeBob accidentally spilled water on it, short-circuiting the whole thing in an explosive burst. The invention was destroyed, and Sandy exploded too, kicking him out of her house. Sitting on the ground, SpongeBob began questioning why he even existed. He decided it was time to leave Bikini Bottom forever. For Gary, he stocked up a year's worth of food, then said goodbye to his pineapple home. As the wind lifted him into the sky, he waved farewell to his friends one last time and drifted toward the edge of the sea. And just like that, SpongeBob left Bikini Bottom. Did you know that this cat can hold its breath underwater for 20 years? One day, SpongeBob was in the kitchen practicing holding his breath, but after just 5 seconds, he passed out. Luckily, Mr. Krabs was there to revive him. It turns out SpongeBob was trying to mimic his idol, Kenny the Cat, who's said to be able to hold his breath underwater for a whopping 20 years. Tomorrow, Kenny the Cat is coming to Bikini Bottom for a meet and greet. Mr. Krabs asked SpongeBob to bring Kenny over to the Krusty Krab for a meal. So, SpongeBob went to find Sandy to show off his breath-holding skills. But before long, he ran out of air and ended up looking like a limp sponge. Fortunately, Sandy splashed some water on him and brought him back to life. When SpongeBob woke up, he couldn't wait to talk about his idol, Kenny the Cat. But Sandy didn't believe any mammal could hold its breath underwater for 20 years. SpongeBob just laughed and said that Sandy was probably just jealous. That night, little SpongeBob set up a tent by the side of the road, planning to wait for 14 hours just to be the first to meet his idol. He even drew himself and Patrick as Kenny the Cat. His over-the-top fan costume was so ridiculous that it scared Patrick off. The next day, Kenny the Cat finally arrived in Bikini Bottom, and SpongeBob, along with a crowd of other fans, cheered him on from the streets. SpongeBob eagerly pulled out his spatula and begged for an autograph. That's when Kenny the Cat said he was hungry. SpongeBob immediately suggested they head to the Krusty Krab for some burgers. Thanks to Kenny's fame, Mr. Krabs made a huge profit, even giving away a few packets of condiments as a special gift, something totally out of character for the normally stingy boss. But suddenly, Kenny the Cat started acting strange. He said he needed to use the restroom, and when he went in and closed the door, he pulled out an oxygen tank from behind. It turned out his whole breathing underwater thing was a complete lie. When SpongeBob went in to deliver his burger, he caught the whole thing on accident. His idol's image shattered right before his eyes, and his fan dream was crushed in an instant. He was torn between exposing the truth or letting it slide. Kenny begged him for a second chance, and SpongeBob, feeling soft-hearted, eventually agreed. Kenny went right back to maintaining his glamorous public image, successfully fooling everyone, until Sandy showed up, ready to expose him.
I can't take it! I need oxygen!
Do you know what would happen if Patrick had a nose? It turns out that Patrick was really jealous of SpongeBob and Squidward because they both had noses. So he decided to get plastic surgery and gave himself a nose. Patrick was thrilled with his new nose. He could smell the sweet aroma of cake and even the lovely scent of perfume, which made him really happy. But soon after, he came across some rotten onion rings, and the awful smell nearly scared him to death. Just then, the trash can next to him started attacking him, and Patrick, terrified, ran back home in a panic. Once at home, before he could relax, he smelled something awful again. It was then that he realized how dirty his house actually was. So, Patrick started cleaning up, but the stench seemed to be everywhere, especially Squidward's moldy cheese.
That's better.
And SpongeBob's sweat dripping everywhere. Patrick even went as far as sealing up the holes on SpongeBob's body. He also rushed to the Krusty Krab, using candles and perfume to clean up the restaurant. The customers were all chased away. Mr. Krabs was furious, but Patrick thought the restaurant smelled awful anyway. To stop Patrick, they gathered every stinky sock in Bikini Bottom and placed them next to his rock house. Patrick's nose slowly began to shrink, and eventually, it disappeared. Patrick completely lost it, crying as he ran away. To comfort him, they put up a gravestone for his lost nose.
Who cares? At least now that pink moron will leave us alone.
I heard that.